Welcome to science class. Today we will go on a tour of the solar system. What is a solar system? It is all of the collective objects that orbit around a massive star. We tend to think of a solar system as being just the sun and planets, but there are billions of other objects. Asteroids, comets, meteorites, space dust, all of the objects we have ever observed in our local neighborhood are orbiting the sun, except for two. In 2017, we observed an object, which we named Oumuamua, which flew through our solar system, but it came from interstellar space. Later in 2019, another object was observed, and it was determined it was interstellar as well. Our solar system is also big, really big. You might think that Pluto is the edge of the solar system. Not even close. Pluto is approximately 40 times farther away from the sun than we are, but objects around 100,000 times the distance from Earth to the sun orbit the sun. That makes our solar system nearly 1.5 light years across. Let me try to show you. If the sun were here, and the Earth was 10 meters away, which is right here, Pluto would be right here, but the edge of the solar system would be right here. Yeah, makes you feel kind of small, doesn't it? Let's get started. Some housekeeping stuff first. When we talk about distances in a solar system, meters, kilometers, they're not big enough. I'll often use astronomical units, which is Earth's average distance from the sun, which is almost exactly 150 million kilometers. When comparing planets, I'll use Earth as the standard measuring stick. So when we compare the orbital period, or year, on other planets, I'll give it to you in Earth years, or Earth days. We will compare the masses of planets to that of Earth masses as well, and the diameter of those planets will be compared to Earth. Let's begin our tour with the sun. It's gigantic. The sun is 1.3 million times the volume of Earth, but only 330,000 times Earth's mass. This is because the sun is almost made entirely of hydrogen and helium, the simplest, lightest elements. 99.85% of all the mass in the solar system is the sun. All of this sand weighs 10 kilograms, or 10,000 grams. If this entire volume and mass were the solar system, this much of it, 15 grams, would be everything else in the whole solar system. And about 60% of that is just Jupiter. This is why objects tens of thousands of times farther away from the sun than Earth can orbit it. Its gravitational pull is huge. Except, objects don't orbit the sun. The sun and those objects orbit each other. Similarly, the moon doesn't orbit Earth. Earth and the moon orbit around each other. Imagine we had two objects of equal mass bounced on a 1 meter long stick. Their point of equilibrium, which is called a barycenter, would be exactly in the middle, at 50 centimeters. If one object is twice as massive as the other, the distance from the more massive object to the barycenter would be half as much as the distance from the barycenter to the less massive object. If one object is 10 times more massive, the barycenter in our example would be 9.1 centimeters from the more massive object, and therefore 90.9 centimeters from the less massive object. Objects orbiting each other in space have a barycenter that depends on the masses of the objects. These graphics on Wikipedia illustrate it very well. The barycenter of the moon is actually 4,671 kilometers from Earth's center, so the Earth wobbles in space like this. The sun's barycenter is way more complicated because the planets always shift position, but this graphic shows how the sun's position in space has also wobbled over the years. Objects closer to the sun orbit at a much higher velocity than objects farther away. This was first observed mathematically by Kepler. Mercury is whizzing around the sun at 48 kilometers per second, while Neptune orbits at 5 kilometers per second, which is still 14.5 times the speed of sound. You can see in this 3D model of our solar system how each of the three inner planets orbit the sun at progressively slower velocities. Then far away in the back we see Jupiter and Saturn creeping along more slowly. Another interesting fact about our solar system is that all of the 8 planets orbit along the same plane. It isn't exactly perfect, but they are within a few degrees of inclination of each other. Pluto, though, is way off, and if we insert a comet here, we can see that their orbits can be in any orientation. And you'll also notice that comets have these crazy elliptical orbits. Some of them come as close to the sun as the inner planets, but then retreat tens or hundreds of times farther away than Pluto. Most of those comets come from an extremely vast portion of our solar system called the Kuiper Belt. Pluto exists within the inner edge of the Kuiper Belt, but it extends much farther from the Sun than that. Beyond the Kuiper Belt is the Oort cloud, which you can imagine as the outer shell of our solar system. Between Mars and Jupiter, there is, of course, the asteroid belt. We will cover those in detail in a future episode. Let's do an overview of the planets. We can place all 8 planets into just 2 groups. There are the 4 terrestrial planets, which are small and made of minerals and metal. Then there are the 4 Jovian or gas giant planets, which are made almost entirely of hydrogen and helium. Those are the 2 most common elements in the universe by a long ways. So that's why these planets are so much larger. They formed from more common materials. Earth, the largest terrestrial planet, is about 1/4 the diameter of the smallest Jovian planet, Neptune. The other common material found on planets, mostly the outer planets and their moons, are ices. Water ice is common, but frozen ammonia, methane, and carbon dioxide are found in large quantities in the outer portions of our solar system. So when I say ice, that may mean many different frozen substances that are normally liquid or gas here on Earth. The terrestrial planets are similar to each other in composition and therefore density, and same story with the Jovian planets. But each planet is highly unique in almost every other way. The orbital period of each planet depends on their proximity to the Sun. It only takes Mercury 88 Earth days to go around the Sun, Mars is about 1.5 times farther away from the Sun, and its year is about 2 Earth years, 22.5 Earth months to be more precise. A year on Jupiter is 12 Earth years, while Pluto, which isn't really a planet, takes 248 Earth years to orbit the Sun. Periods of rotation, or what a day on each planet is, are extremely varied. It takes 59 Earth days for Mercury to rotate 360 degrees, 244 for Venus. The Martian day is only about 40 minutes longer than ours. The big planets have days that only range from 10 to 16 hours. They rotate extremely fast. Remember, their circumference is much greater than ours also, so these speeds are really impressive. Mercury is the only planet that has no atmosphere. Mercury and Venus are the only planets that have no moons. Even not really a planet, Pluto has 5 moons. We used to think that the structure of our solar system was sort of the standard, and in a lot of ways it should make sense. Small rocky planets, made of materials that can resist the higher temperatures this close to the Sun, go here, and the gas giants made of hydrogen and helium, which get pushed by the solar wind and need to be far away in the cold regions of space, go out there. Except when we started to find exoplanets in the late 90s, and now we know of thousands of them, we started to find oddities. We know of Jupiter-like planets that orbit so close to their star that their orbital period is 4 days. Now, our solar system is billions of years old, and we don't know if it has evolved over time, and it's not likely that we ever will have a good idea if it has. Maybe the positions of the planets change as solar systems mature, or maybe every place in the universe is just different. But we do understand how solar systems in general are produced. It's hard to know where to begin with this, so buckle in. We're going back to the beginning of everything. 13.7 billion years ago, the universe expanded from a singularity. All of the matter in the entire universe was crammed into an unimaginably condensed state of existence. You couldn't even call what the structure of the universe was matter, because elements, atoms, molecules, they didn't even exist yet. They couldn't. The entire universe was nothing but heat and energy. After a few 100,000 years, the universe expanded to a point where it cooled enough that matter could begin to form. What is matter made of? Protons, neutrons, and electrons. If you have the bare minimum of that, you have hydrogen and a few of its isotopes. Helium atoms were able to form, and tiny amounts of lithium as well, the next simplest elements. But this is just raw matter spread about. There's no structure. In space, clouds of matter form nebulae. Hubble's most famous picture is of the so-called pillars of creation. These tendrils of matter are space dust, and we call these nebulae or nebula for singular. These clouds of space dust are several light years wide and tall. Eventually, gravity and internal pressure cause the matter within the nebula to attract. This collapsing hydrogen and helium forms stars. Stars fuse elements together. Remember, we started off with just 3 elements when the universe began, but there are about 90 naturally occurring elements that you can find on Earth. They came from a star. The calcium in your skeleton, the iron in your blood, the nitrogen in your DNA was formed in the core of a star, or formed when a star went supernova and was destroyed. We will cover fusion in the future, but it's the process of smashing together the nuclei of different atoms, which creates brand new elements in the process. Our solar system is known as a second-generation solar system. A massive star existed before the Sun or any other planets in this region of the Milky Way. That star lived for perhaps billions of years, but one day destroyed itself in a supernova event, which spread huge quantities of still mostly hydrogen and helium, but also all the other elements of the periodic table into space. This creates a nebula. An event, perhaps another nearby supernova, compressed the nebula, and gravity and internal negative pressure began to collect all of this raw material together. As the nebula contracted, it also rotated. This collapsing, rotating cloud of material eventually forms what's called an accretion disk. Slowly, all of the material swirling around snowballed into massive objects. First meteors, then asteroids, then spherical objects called planetesimals, then planets and moons. Most of this material became the Sun. As far as the rest, not all, but more than 99.99% of it became the large planets and moons we observe in our solar system today. Now, that was about 14 billion years worth of history crammed into just a couple minutes. But we only need the big picture for now. That also concludes this lesson for this video. Next time, we're going to explore the inner planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. We've sort of already covered Earth. Thanks for watching.